here, so just to give you a heads up, this series, we've been doing it now for 7 years. We have a wonderful group of archives out there and available for you on the site, so feel free to join us. We are happy to be here today. This is brought to you by Lunchtime. Lunchtime Learning is brought to you by Salle University Instructional Technology Management Masters of Science program. So, I'm going to get it to click here. Hello. Aha! This is what learning is all about. I'm going to put these videos down temporarily. Are you ready to learn on a screen, online, and on a device? The program is unique in that it focuses on workplace, organizational, and institutional learning. We don't really do the K-12 kind of thing. We've become very, very popular in the last 7 years as more and more people are integrating technologies into their learning and development platform. There are lots of careers available to you with this kind of a degree. We really have two options. We have the full master's degree, which is 36 hours, and then we have a certificate, which is literally half of the master's degree, that you can then go on and apply all of those credits to the MS if you decide to go down that road. A lot of our people have master's degrees, so this is a good way to get in there and take some courses and see if you really want to get the second master's. Who hires in these businesses? All different kinds of industries. The financials, the pharmas, the government. More and more is being done with technology. And that's really where we are. You know, we're on the leading edge. Companies hire under many, many titles. I always joke with people and say, what really is an instructional designer, you know? Sometimes it's instructional designers and developments, e-learning specialists, corporate training, learning and development, talent development is big these days. But what's really happened is the world is growing. We're all interconnected these days. So we're using technology more and more in pursuit of learning. If you're not familiar with ATD, which used to be ASTD, which is now the Association for Talent Development, they changed their name last year. Go out there and look around, look for careers in this field, and you'll see that there's an awful lot of opportunities. Also, if you're not familiar with this association, it's a good one to get associated with. LaSalle is a 150-year-old faith-based Catholic institution. They will do everything they can to help you in terms of getting you registered, getting you signed up, any kind of financial aid kind of issues. The staff is really, really tremendous. It's a very personal, hands-on kind of an experience. One of the things that I really appreciate about working for LaSalle is that their mission says that education should be of service and that you should give back in the workplace. Here's a picture of the curriculum for the Masters of Science program. It's out there. It's on the web. And you know, it's really all about training in all levels just isn't what it used to be, you know. And our mission is to make it better. So here I am. If you want to get in touch with me, if you're interested in the program, what you need to do is you need to go out there, fill out an application, which kicks everything off, and get us undergraduate transcripts and a resume. And there we go. So I thank everybody for listening to my advertisement. That's Sebastian for last time. We have this time. Ta-da! All right. I would like to introduce you to Jay. Jay is the CEO of MYMIC and an industry leader in science and technology that supports decision-making and knowledge management with a focus on maritime safety training and simulations. Jay has agreed to come today and share with us some of his insight into game-based 3D virtual and interactive simulation solutions and the future of virtual reality platforms in safety training, soft skills, process management, and operations exercises. We are so happy to have you. This is really a big area, and an area that's really taking off. So with that, I am going to turn this over to Jay. I just need to find you here. And make you the presenter. Which means you'll see Jay's screen and not mine. I am going away so that you're paying attention to him and not me. I will be monitoring the chat for questions, and then we'll open it up, in the last 10 minutes or so. All right, folks, enjoy.
Thank you, Bobby. This is Jay Bhatt, President and CEO of MYMIC. I hope my screen is being shared, Bobby.
Click up at the top, right next to the camera icon, and make sure that your screen is being shared.
Okay. Is it now shared?
I'm not seeing it yet.
Show my screen.
There we go. Now we're working.
Okay, perfect.
Ta-da.
Well, welcome everybody. This is Jay Bhatt again, and I'm really pleased to have this opportunity to talk to you about my company and what's happening in the training space. I understand that many of you are in the learning and development space yourself, and understand the challenges. I've been in the learning space for about 15 years myself. I work for a company called Coastal Training Technologies that we sold to DuPont, and here at MYMIC we're in the exciting field of game-based training. So I have a presentation. I'm going to go through my presentation, and there'll be some time for questions. And so, as far as this whole area of game-based training, I want to say that this has been a domain mainly on the DoD side, on the government side, and what I call the commercial side of training has really not had much exposure, by and large, to this technology. And MYMIC is right at the forefront of this because we have been producing training content for the U.S. DoD for many years. And I have been working on bringing this technology to the commercial world over the last couple of years with a tremendous amount of success. And I want to show you some of the things that we've done and some of the customers that we've helped, and hopefully have some interesting questions about the future of this technology, which I say is here to stay. So, my first slide, we are creating game-based training to improve knowledge retention. Retention of knowledge is a big issue from a standpoint of return on investment on training dollars that are spent. And so we see our technology primarily helping with knowledge retention and knowledge transfer, which we'll talk about a little later on. And so what we've done is we've really taken the theory of game-based training and put it into practice at my company. We've had our challenges, but we've been successful with the projects we've done. A lot of our work has been focused on reducing accidents and increasing profitability. Those of you, as Bobby mentioned, the American Society of Training and Development, now called Association for Talent Development, does various studies and publishes a lot of interesting, useful information about the training industry. And an average company spends $1,200 a year on training for their employees, and smaller companies actually spend even more. But what is a $160 billion industry in the United States? This majority of the training delivery is via instructor training. 70% or so of the training is instructor-led, and about 38% uses technology. This is a pretty big problem, I think, going forward. And this is one of the factors the confluence of which is going to dictate the future of training. When baby boomers retire out of the workforce, as they are currently in decades, there's going to be a massive loss of knowledge, basically, which will not be transferred. And that's a major risk for Western countries, many of whom understand it, and many companies that we talk to are embracing that problem, that a lot of people not actually embracing that problem and are being caught unawares. The top 3 areas of content development are compliance and mandatory, and we certainly participate in that in terms of OSHA mandated training, managerial and supervisory training. We've made inroads into that, and professional or industry specific training. The one thing I'll say has been my experience is that the area of training that's going to require the most investment in the future is skills-based training, because with the loss of skills caused by the loss of knowledge and loss of knowledge transfer is going to be specifically skill-based. And in my last company, we saw a major growth in that area. And so let me just move to the next slide. These are the critical workforce challenges that our customers talk to us about. One of the local cities here in the Hampton Roads area, we're working with them on a project. Their biggest issue is knowledge transfer. 35% of their workforce is eligible today to retire, and they don't have any replacement plan whatsoever. There's certainly no capture of the knowledge that they're going to lose in there. So that's like amongst the most mentioned factors there. And it's imminent. It's happening as we speak. Every day, 10,000 baby boomers leave the workforce, or at least get to the age of 65 and are eligible to leave the workforce. In 2029, 83 million baby boomers will have retired. And that's a big segment of the U.S. workforce. The challenges of hiring and training a new workforce, especially younger people, millennials and others, learn in a different fashion to the way in which some of us learn. They use bite-sized training, chunked-up training. They rely on the use of search, social media, mobile devices, and so on. So next item, need to skill development of new and incumbent workers. Basically the same type of issue. Knowledge transfer from aging and imminent retirement of large workforce. We can talk about that. Attracting workers in a highly competitive, limited labor pool. I mean, the participation rate in the U.S. employment market has actually increased. The level of unemployment has decreased, and the job creation has been fairly steady and pretty high over the last year or so, based on the actions the government took and the Treasury took in order to save the economy. So, and then attracting the right kind of workers in a highly competitive limited labor. So, and obviously need to reduce costs, and costs are not necessarily the cost of training. One of the customers we're talking to right now on a major project, a simulation project we're doing, which is for the fueling of container ships, large container ships, the process of fueling them, is actually going to be taught in a simulation in what-if scenarios, so that failure and creation of spills is possible in the virtual environment. Obviously, it doesn't cost anything, but if that were to happen in an actual environment, the fines from the government agencies to do with the environment, are $500,000 to $1 million a pop. So cost is not necessarily just the cost of training, but it's the cost of lost time wages and the cost of accidents. And I know you all are preaching to the choir with that. So we at MYMIC are turning passive learning. Oftentimes the learning is delivered by instructor-led, as I said before. That's where the majority of the training tends to be. And we're parsing it out and creating it into what we call active learning. And in the virtual world, in an interactive world, in a game-based world, where retention can be much higher. And as this source from Edgar Dale shows from 1969, passive learning, the level of retention tends to be less after 7 days. But with active learning, and a lot of our customers will acknowledge this, active learning creates a lot more retention, 70 to 90%. Now, this is a commercial type study, but there are so many studies that have been done on the DoD side that demonstrate these levels of retention with game-based training or interactive training, which the government uses a lot of. Here are some examples of the training platforms that we've already built, and we've built so many since then. But fire safety training in the virtual world, marine safety training in the virtual world, and that's where our entry into the maritime industry has been fairly large. We support learning management systems, both off-the-shelf learning management systems as well as our own, and so on. So we have the branded and trademarked training media approach. Our evolution, and this slide here is just to share with you that the game-based training, simulated training, is here to stay. When we first started this effort, we thought that there would be some headwinds, but we're now finding that the conversation with our customers has changed. 2 or 3 years ago, our customers were asking us, what the commercial customers were asking us what game-based training was. They had the notion that it's something that the DoD uses, but really no more information than that. A year ago, the conversation with our customers has been, we get it, can you do it for us? Our conversation with our customers today is, okay, the project you did for us last time was very successful. Here's several other projects we need you to complete in a simulated environment. So I just, this is what our experience has been. We think that, because of the factors we discussed earlier about the baby boomers and the younger workforce and the need for knowledge transfer and knowledge retention, this technology is going to become much more popular and much more useful to be used. In this slide, I wanted to show you some of the evolution that's occurred in terms of our customer base. We've worked with hundreds of companies, obviously, but the kinds of companies, as I call them, leading edge companies like Sherwin-Williams, American Presidential Line, Signal Indemnity, and many others like Steel, Chainsaw, and other manufacturing companies are all beginning to see the value of this kind of training. The American Society of Training and Development, ATD, did a study in 2013, which was entitled The Future of Training. It was a pretty large study, but the two main findings in that study, those of you who may have looked at it, were that, number one, the future of training would be with mobile devices, but number two, very significantly for us, that the future of training would be in virtual worlds, in interactive worlds, using what-if scenarios where the engagement by the student would be significantly more than it is with video-based training or instructor-led training. Many of you are familiar with Bloom's taxonomy, but the kind of approach we have with instructional design for game-based training follows that kind of taxonomy. What we found is that our training typically is designed in level 2 or level 3. We're currently working on a project which is going to be a level 4 project. The one thing I want to say to the group here about this is that the initiative that I've had specifically is to be able to bring this technology to commercial companies who have limited budgets for training and education at a price point that's comparable to creating a custom video. So our training content that's delivered in a highly interactive virtual world game-based training will typically cost about the same as a video on a linear minute basis. So typically a custom video development will cost between $1,500 to up to $5,000 a linear minute. Training content delivery, so a 20-minute piece of training would have a price tag of something like that created in the video. And most of the projects we deliver to our customers in the virtual world are priced at the same time. So, we are able to show commercial customers that instead of making an investment in custom videos, which are going to by nature become outdated, why not make that investment in this more modern cutting-edge technology, which, by the way, really is more suitable for the new population, and there's the ability to build in the knowledge transfer within that. And I'll show you some of the features of our game platforms as we get into the next slides that will help demonstrate that. So what we have done in order to make matters a little easier with selling to our customers and providing solutions to our customers is to have several different game designs or learning designs. So we have a portfolio of learning designs. Now certainly we can do ground up custom work at the request of the customer, but oftentimes it's easier to follow a certain kind of design. So this particular slide talks about an interactive tour design. So if you look on the top left-hand side, that is one of our maritime customers who wanted to have new recruits who are not able to get on a ship to do a virtual ship tour, so they understand all the elements and the dangerous areas, the unsafe areas, and some of the language that's used on board a ship. In some cases, alarms that are used, and so on and so forth. So they get this through a virtual tour where they are actually to go through the entire ship at different places, and they will be asked questions about their. There'll be assessments throughout that training to determine if they retain that knowledge. So this is a very popular design with our customers because it fits those types of areas where it's sort of a tour, where you want to get situational awareness, meet up with potential hazards if there are any, and then be questioned on them through assessments that are logically and critically placed throughout the training, so that there's a way to record how much retention there was. In some cases, you go back and keep doing the training until you get the answers right, and because it's a software that we've developed, there's the ability to keep the records and do the other things that learning management systems may do. The other type of game, this is just a game-based training. Now, we've got the example here. It's sort of a lively, fun type of game. In this particular iteration, it's for marinas. So we have a lot of marinas across the United States that are our customers that we do a lot of work for. But this is a generic game-based training where there are several different training objectives. So there's a welcome, there's some training on dock safety, in this case, fueling, electrical hazards, and so on. But it's a standard design which can be reused from marina to marina with some customization to make the look and feel of the marina be customized to a particular customer. Here's an example of some of the marina customers we have throughout the United States. This is a little bit more detail about the ship familiarization tour game that we have. You can see the fidelity and the high definition of the content that we develop at a price point that, as I mentioned before, is comparable to creating a custom video. But of course, it's very, very interactive. There's the use of avatars in many of our productions, and so on.
Jay, Michelle has a quick question for you. In the chat room here, yes. Are there any additional game elements like points, etc.?
Very good question. I usually think about that as gamification of training. Absolutely. We will see with the Sherwin-Williams badges. So by getting questions right, you get badges, 1 badge, 2 badge, 3 badges. The game that we're designing for a maritime customer on the refueling that I was talking about, the approach there that we're using is that if you make a mistake with the process for the refueling, you lose the company thousands of dollars, okay, in your decision making. So yes, the addition of gamification elements like those, leaderboards, badges, points, and many, many others, we do those. And those are certainly a big part of what we offer. Hopefully that answers the question. Okay, moving on to the next slide. What's also popular amongst our customers, this is Sherwin-Williams University, they have their mascot, and his name is Jim. So all the training that we create for this company now is going to have the same mascot that's going to be in the training. He's become somewhat of a star. So we're talking about having a doll-like creature of this mascot that would be handed to the trainees as they take this training. So there's a fun element to it, but this training here, in example, is on different aspects of hazards with fire. So the last module that we completed for Sherwin-Williams is static electricity. And the kinds of things that you can do with this virtual world, we have electrons flying around, we have arc flashes occurring, we're able to simulate all of those kinds of things. We're able to do animations, excuse me, of those things in this virtual world. And it's a very interactive training. You can get to a point of actually blowing up the planet if you make mistakes. So this is the value that they see. All of the other methods they've used for training for these hazards have not worked, and they've had some, fairly bad incidents, that sometimes result in fatalities. So this becomes a really core of their training. But I just wanted to say that the virtual instructor is a very popular approach for some of our customers. Procedural training is another methodology, and this is a really good example of the use of this in the what we call VCORE, the Virtual Control Room. This is a project we did for NASA, and we've got multiple other projects that are going on with NASA. As we said earlier, that some of these organizations are a mile wide and an inch deep. And at the cryogenic wind tunnel here in Langley, Hampton here in NASA, they don't have people that can operate this tunnel. And there are very few people that have knowledge of operating this tunnel. So this project actually builds a virtual world of the control room for the tunnel, has a mathematics model working in the background that simulates the activity in the tunnel itself as you press the dials and the switches in this virtual control room. But the important thing here is all the standard operating procedures that are known of are loaded into this game, so that there's a knowledge transfer element that has occurred here. So there's both procedural training, and by the way, this is delivered by a mobile device. So there's procedural training going on and knowledge transfer going on, and it's very realistic. There's actual the ability to mimic faults in the system and learn from those, so that when you go into the actual control room and operate the system, then you're less likely to make those mistakes, and those mistakes cost, in this particular case, hundreds of thousands of dollars because they're pumping liquid nitrogen through here. So oftentimes simulations are really the only viable way to train in some situations, and hence the popularity of this. The other types of training, you can see this is a DoD project, which we have a commercial version of, is training people in critical thinking. One of the things that people that have been on the job for many years and are very experienced, but when they retire, the knowledge that they gained over the years in terms of critical thinking is also going to go. For some of the younger people that are coming in, they just simply won't have that kind of critical thinking because they wouldn't have been in those situations for long enough. And this game here is designed to train a combat medic that's deployed out in a hostile situation, not for her trade, not teaching her how to be a medic, but more how to deal with critical thinking. It's a complicated environment. There are IEDs going off. There's fire from the enemy. It's a very confusing situation. and the medic in this game is required to save as many people as he can. If you look in the screen here, you see a diagram of an assessment module in there and a treatment plan in there. So the medic will actually diagnose the situation and treat it at the same time, and can actually evacuate the patient with a helicopter that he can call in this situation. So there is a lot of interest with local cities here for converting this into a commercial use scenario for first responders, whether it's gunshot wounds or other kinds of wounds that might be sustained, let's say, in a terrorist attack. So that's a scenario-based exercise game. The gamified wraparound approach is one that has been used extensively in our maritime customers. In this particular case, marine terminal indoctrination. Some of these workplaces tend to be extremely dangerous, and then they employ people that are itinerant. There's some language issues sometimes with them. But they bring them on board as and when they need them, and there is a significant risk of injury or death in some cases. And so, giving them situational awareness, showing them hazards, and so on, is something that is used in this wraparound. Now, getting back to the question, each one of these can have, and do in many cases, have game elements incorporated in there that are playing on the top of the screen, showing who's the leader, points and badges and such on. This is an example of the template type approach. I think this would be useful for those that have budget restrictions. This is where the majority of our assessment software that we've developed is in a template that we have. So we have created, this is just an example of the user interface for South Carolina ports, in this case, for new hire safety orientation. And those are the subject matters. But this is actually a template. We could make this a totally different organization. It could be some other training topics. And then it would be listed there, as you see, in this case, safety, your role, housekeeping, whatever. It would be totally different topics. So we can quickly assemble training content using these templates that we've built that enable us to deliver at a lower price point and certainly much faster than other projects. Typically, a full ground-up custom development will run about $2,500 a linear minute training cost, and it will take approximately 2 months for us to complete from the point we sign the contract to the delivery of the final version. And so the way the learning template works, we've got the MYMIC logo animation that starts with a user login, which enables all that user information to be stored and the certificate to be generated. If there's any other kind of record keeping that's needed, that can also be incorporated in there. We'll have the course title animation and the course menu, as we saw earlier, split by modules and other things. But you'll notice there that there's the capability of having these assessments in for each of the training, which are also recorded, in the user information in terms of how many questions were right and how many questions were wrong. The other thing that's become very popular is to actually have a virtual world of the training situation. Here's a template that we use, which is a virtual classroom. You can see this view is from the ceiling. You can have the view from the floor. You can have it from many different places. You can navigate around it. But what some customers like is the ability to have a look and feel of a virtual world in this case, and they'll put their own logos in here to make it specific and customized to their needs. But as you get down to the screen and the whiteboard, that's where the training will play for the students. And the students can participate from different locations and receive the same training in this particular case. And here's another shot of that, now having a mascot or avatar that's the instructor in this case. They would be providing the instruction while the training is going on the whiteboard or the screen, and then all the assessments after that. We do our own animations, and we have invested a significant amount of money. What we use, the system we use is used in Hollywood productions, but in this case you'll see one of our people, Clinton, taking a fall with a suit, and at the side of that is the image of the animation being built alongside. So we're able to do this in-house and at a very low cost, but it's a major feature of the productions that we create. A lot of interest in avatars, clearly to be able to show diversity in the workplace. We build a lot of avatars. We have access to many avatars. They can be used pretty much like actors in a video. And so the storyboard-based reenactment we've done for several customers that can be used in an instructor-led situation or otherwise. And then specific virtual simulations, we do some in 2D, we do in 3D, just to bring that training and make it more compelling. There is a move sometimes to, in this case, this is fire extinguisher training, to combine mixed reality so that you are able to have the look and feel, in this case, of a fire extinguisher, but not necessarily have real fire, but through laser technology to be able to actually learn how to use the extinguisher as you see depicted in this picture here. Here's an example, going back to that earlier question. This is an approach, in this case from Microsoft, which is purely gamified, game-based training. So we can do this kind of work too, but what Microsoft wanted was to take an existing training content, which is for their 30,000 or so management personnel around the world, and not create that training in a virtual world, but to gamify it. As you can see, we created this prototype of where you would have all the different functionality of the training, and there will be this game on the right that you're actually playing. That's part of the training setup, and we're keeping tabs on the leaderboard, time lapse, and many other game features that would be part of the gamification. Here's an example of shipyard safety training for those different kinds of things. As you can see, this is PPE, the personal protective equipment in the fabrication shop. That's very valuable training to this particular customer because there are lots of eye injuries that occur in the shipyard. The customer told us that after they implemented this training that we created, their accident rate dropped substantially. Here's some examples of some of our testimonials. So here are the advantages of the value proposition. Impact on critical decision making, tracking diverse learning groups, changing culture of safety behaviors in many cases through this approach. Training teams globally, certainly a lot of ROI considerations with improved profitability, lower costs, and actually improving market share through differentiation in many cases. It's a testimonial. I didn't have videos because I was afraid. Here's an example. Medical costs reduced from 400K to 70K in just 1 year. I really think MYMIC is at the cutting edge of technology, but what's happening in the world of technology today is going to dictate what happens with training. I typically tend to follow the consumer model. I say that whenever the consumer model goes a certain way with technology, the best example of which was the shift from VHS to DVD, which even that DVD is gone now. But all of the training content had to follow that. So who knows? I mean, the work that's being done, the acquisition of Oculus Rift in this case by Facebook, a $2 billion transaction, we don't know what they're going to do, but when I look at Facebook, over 1 billion users on the social media side, investing in an equipment company, a wearable device, what is it for the consumer experience with social media, and how does that impact us in the learning space? There will be some sort of impact, but we are always at the cutting edge of that. And so that's a new and exciting area. And mobile devices, already we're seeing a lot of requests for training to be delivered to mobile devices. And those of you who are familiar with learning management systems and what's happening right now with TinCam and API, the alternative approach to learning management systems, we're very much in the middle of that. We think that the effect of social media and game-based training is going to be part and parcel of what happens going forward with how score compliance and learning management systems will be in the future. Well, that's what I have so far. I wanted to make sure that I left enough time for more questions. So I'm pretty much done with my presentation. I hope that you found it useful.
Oh, Jay, thank you so much. Thank you, thank you. We do have some questions. I've been kind of keeping them at bay here in the chat area. Paul, I'm going to open up, I'm going to unmute people. Paul Roden, would you like to start first? And if we get too much echo, oh, no, that's not going to work. I'm going to have to mute you back. All right, I'll unmute Paul. Paul, would you like to ask a question?
Okay.
There we go.
Hello. My question is about transfer of learning, especially with OSHA requirements. In my experience, whether it's online or in the classroom, people will go through the training and they'll go back to their workplace and they'll do the exact opposite of what they supposedly just learned. How can you do this with either virtual or a gaming environment?
Whoop, wait a minute. I've got him on mute. That's why we got everybody else muted. Hang on, we'll get Jay unmuted here. Okay, go ahead.
Is that, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, so let me continue with that question. So those are two major areas of focus. Virtual really enabled you to effectively deal with them. So it's, as far as retention, we are assessments into the training and making the training extremely interactive, as well as putting in gamification, badges, reward, that sort of thing. So the experience is going to be totally different to the experience you may have with instructor-led. You're more likely to retain that knowledge as you leave the classroom and go back to your place of work. The next thing is knowledge transfer. So our systems, what they do is they build in the knowledge that other people have, and there's a big social media aspect of this, so that as a student you're able to get into and get knowledge transferred to you from other people, because it's either live in terms of social media or it's embedded in there. Just like the NASA example, where we have all of the different operating procedures loaded into the system, whether you need them or not. So for once and for all, we've got that knowledge captured, and the system that we build facilitates the transfer of it in a search-type methodology. So you're able to search keywords in terms of what you may be looking for, and then you will get that procedure for you to practice. So the two go hand in hand in that particular solution. I hope that answered the question. I think it was a very, very important question that was asked.
I'm going to open up Nora now. Nora had a couple good questions, one about branching and one about safe mistake making. Nora, do you want to ask yourself here?
Nora?
Nora, can you hear us?
She may be on mute.
No, I don't. She's off mute.
Okay.
She's on a phone though, so anyway, Nora's questions were, how do you build opportunities for safe mistake making, and do you also do any branching in these?
Yes, both very important things. So the one thing that is very important to understand is that with this technology, this game-based platform, a lot more things are possible than with a video or instructor-led or any other approach. So as far as branching is concerned, yes, absolutely. As you are, as the company is being delivered to you, depending on how well you might be doing with the assessments relative to the content, you may branch out into a different subject. I mean, if you're doing really well, maybe you don't have to take a couple of modules because it's a waste of your time. If you're not doing very well, maybe you need to have some additional instruction in some other areas, and then you'd be led into that. All of that can be built into the training software, which is what we do. And then the other part of the question was safe learning or safe accidents. Well, absolutely, clearly, in just about every training that we've built, we create the right thing to do and the wrong thing to do. But in the virtual world, you are free to do the wrong thing, but you will be virtually injured, or you could virtually die, or you could virtually explode something. In the example of the fueling project we was talking about, if you make a mistake with the process, with the very complex process of fueling vessels, you can cause a spill, which can cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. So, yeah, you can practice in a safe environment as long as you need to, which then reinforces the retention and it reinforces the knowledge transfer in many cases. But you've also been able to safely make mistakes, which you will probably not make in real life, which is what really counts. Does that help?
Yeah. It helped me. I absolutely loved Mike, by the way. I would give Mike a Mike mug to everybody. I think that's just awesome. Plus, every time you have a cup of coffee, it reinforces Mike in the training. That was absolutely awesome. I had a couple quick questions for you. On the procedural support that you're putting out there in mobile, are you doing that cloud-based? How are you handling the challenges of mobile? Let's put it that way.
Well, we have the ability to respond to whatever the customer wants us to do. At this point, cloud computing is still new with what we've talked about. But the application that we're working for steel chainsaws on will actually be an app on mobile devices that's available by App Store or embedded in the particular mobile devices used by their dealers, dealership networks. But we are a software development company. We produce apps. We are familiar with cloud-based computing. So as and when our customer needs to take us to we'll be able to.
Excellent. Anybody else? I can unmute folks here. Anybody else have any questions for Jay? Anybody want to ask any questions? Yeah, go ahead.
You see, it doesn't let me type.
Looks like we're meeting people again here.
Yeah, I mean, that's why.
All right, folks, we had a sort of an extension of noise in the background there. I did have a question for you, Jay, just another brief one. In terms of the training modules, like the ones that you showed us at the shipyard, have you found any kind of length any kind of optimal time kind of thing that makes sense, 20 minutes too long, 30 minutes too long, anything that applies to people's attention and time in these virtual worlds. I mean, we know some people can stay in them for days, literally. Oh, I got to unmute you again, sorry.
Learn in a different way to the way I learned, but typically our training content is going to be modules which show about 20 minutes of training, but it's going to be chunked up into about 5-minute pieces. So there's going to be between 3 and 5 minutes of instruction, and there's going to be a couple of minutes worth of assessment. Now, it may take you longer to do the assessment, but it's chunked up that way. And the instructions is designed so that you get maximum retention of the bite-sized chunked up pieces. And then at the end of the training, after you've taken all your modules, you're going to have what we call a final challenge. So this is where it's going to incorporate everything you would have taught in module 1, 2, 3, and then in the final challenge, there's going to be material that's going to be pulled out of all of the training, and that'll be just focused on assessment. It'll be assessment rich towards the end. So we try to embed assessment throughout the training as much as possible, and then have a full assessment at the end.
Awesome. That makes perfect sense to me. Absolutely perfect sense to me. Anybody else have any questions for Jay before we wrap it up here? Anybody have anything they want to ask? I'm looking in the chat. Raise your hand and I'll unmute you. If not, folks, I want to thank everybody for coming. Glad to see you. Yeah, it was. Excellent presentation, Jay. Excellent. Very, very well done. We're happy to always bring you something new, always bring you something different. In April, I will be doing my new project, which is Touch Points, which is the communicating, inspiring, and measuring performance in the virtual world. So I hope to see you then. As usual, we will be back on the second Tuesday, same time, noon to 1 o'clock. I'll be around for a few minutes. Jay will be around for a few minutes. We'll unmute everybody. I'm going to